So now we have discussed about the stones, tools, that what they made, right? And we have discussed about the discovery of fire, right? And we also discussed about the the paintings that they made it on the walls of the caves as well as on the big rocks. So with the help of these, we just come to know about the information of the hunters and gatherers, how they used to make their life a normal life with the help of all the natural resources. Now, even now, these hunter gatherers are there even now in our day, in this particular period also. Okay. See, there are several groups. There are several groups in the state Telangana. If we talk about, there are several group of people are living still in the areas. The group of people, they are of Yanadis and the Chenchus. Okay, these are the two group of people, still they are existing in our state. Okay, so these two group of the people, they were habituated their life completely, which were completely made the use of the hunters and gatherers in that particular period. They also made themselves to follow the same habituate of the hunters and gatherers right now. Okay, they are following still the same tradition where they used to make in those particular 1000 years ago. So to know more about these people, the few scholars, they started living with these people and they just want to know the information, how these people are living and how they are using the forest, the resources as a form of their resource in their daily life. Okay, and still how they are depending on the natural resources. So to know their traditions, to know their customs, okay, to know a detailed note of the hunters and gatherers, many of the scholars are living their life with these group of people to know more about detailedly about these particular people. In the same way, these people are still following the same traditions where the hunters and gatherers used to follow. Okay, how they used to share their lives. See, for this I'll give you a small example. For example, if you have a siblings, okay, your mother has she brought some new water bottle or some pouch or something else, okay, but she brought only the one piece. Okay, after getting it, you people will be fighting for that. I need this, so I need this. You will be having a big, the war in between you both the siblings, right? It happens generally with all the, all the houses. It generally happens, right? In this case, what happened? You will be fighting together and you will say that we need it, I need it. If it is of any chocolate or anything else, most of you feel that that should be of yours. You will not share. Right? I know few will be shared, but few are there who don't like to share their things with the others. But these hunters and gatherers, they doesn't have this kind of tradition in themselves, because as they are living in the small groups, as we discussed. See, they don't have a certain families like a joint, or you are of this other family or he is of some other family. Okay, the group where they are living together, they all comes under one particular family or one particular category. Okay, so these people, obviously all the men will be going for the hunting of the animals. Whatever the food that they get by the hunting, they'll get back that food and they'll share with all the group of people who are living in that particular area. For example, one of the person has got the food, but the other he didn't get. He just came back with a empty hands. But there is no need of any sort of the things which makes them unhappy, because whatever they'll get, they will share among everyone and they'll have their food. And not only that, even the edible grains also. We feel that if we get something over in some other area at cheaper price, what you will do? We'll go to that market, right? And instead of buying 1 kg, instead of that, we use only generally 1 kg of that particular item. But as we feel that as it is very cheaper at price, so we'll purchase 10 kgs at a time. Am I right? We'll do it, right? But these people, they never go for a huge thing. Whatever is limited for them, they'll get only the food according to that particular limit. Okay, as they found that many of the animals are roaming here and there, as they found that many of the plants which are having a beautiful free, the sweetful fruits, and these all the things, they at a time they'll not get back. They will just take the limit of the food, the limit of the capacity what they need. Okay, they'll get it back and they'll eat, then they'll do it, because especially these things are the perishable, the meats, right, the fruits, all these are perishable because it have a chance to get spoiled, right. But if you see nowadays, we have a big refrigerators where we are storing these all the things in that, and if you store the meat also, it can survive for 2 or 3 weeks also, where you can find in the malls, right. That is not a fresh, where we are storing in the form of a chemical refrigerator, but they don't want to go any sort of this chemicalized food, and they want everything to be used naturally. Even they feel that it is producing, the nature is producing more and more, but they used only according to their limit, not over the limit. But what we do, we generally bring 10 kgs of things and we'll store it in container, we'll fix it. Either we use or not, will be just left over as it is, right. But they don't want to lose, or they don't want to waste the material or the food what they are getting from the forest. And not only that, as we feel that these people are getting everything from the forest, but they are very thankful to the nature, right, because this nature is giving them the life, right, and this nature is giving them the food in the form of food. As the rivers are giving the water, right, the hills are making them to live, right, and the fruits are making them to fill their stomachs, the greens, tubers, everything which is of nature. No one is going there or growing something for these people, am I right? So it is purely of nature. That's the reason these hunters and gatherers also, they are very thankful to the nature as what they are getting from, and they respect each and every resource that they will get from the forest. They respect a lot the forest. Not only that, they will worship the forest resources what they get from it. Even now also you can see the tradition, the group of tribals. Obviously, the hunters and gatherers used to live in the jungle. Now we have termed them as like Yanadis or Chenchus, are the tribal peoples who are living in the forest. So these tribal people mostly believe the nature first. Okay, they'll worship as in the form of God, that is of nature. Either it is of a river, either it is of a hill, either it is of any animal, okay, a plant, a tree, whatever it might be. They are very blessed with the nature. In such a way, this kind of tradition was developed by the hunters and gatherers in those days, and they used to share everything with everyone. The group of people used to have a share with everyone. As you all know that the men were engaged in hunting, the women and the children were also involved to help the men. These women and children, they used to collect the fruits, they used to collect the edible grains from the forest to fulfill their stomachs. Even they are also busy with their work, as they didn't sit idle at a site where they are having the habituation site. Okay, everyone engaged in the work, but one thing I can tell you, they did not spoil any sort of the forest. They feel that the forest is God to them, obviously. So they have protected the forest without spoiling by the others, without spoiling by the any sort of other things, right? But if you see now, whoever are living in the forest, most of the poachers, most of the smugglers, right? So these people are just taking the goods from it, okay, and exporting the goods from one place to another place, right? So these all are the things when it started happening, when the hunters and gatherers started moving out of the forest. Before, when they were in the forest, they used to safeguard the forest, but when they started their life turning into a farmer or turning into one of the person in the society, then all these things can be seen, right? So, but even these tribal groups, they are still there to protect the forest. Okay, so in this way, these tribal people shared their lives among everyone in an equal manner. And how the hunters and gatherers, like from gathering to growing food, how they changed their life. This is one of the important one. From gathering to growing crops. Yes, children, till now we have discussed that they have gathered the fruits, they have gathered the edible grains, they have gathered the tubers, meat, everything. Then how their life has turned into the growing of crops, how they become a farmer. This is what the doubt it raises, right? So generally, if you see, like what we have discussed, these all the things, it were around nearly thousands years ago, right? So after 12,000 years ago, what happened? The habituation of that particular area, the climate got completely changed. Okay, as you know that when we are making the environment, when we are giving the harmful sense to the environment, obviously it reacts harmful towards us, right? We can feel, we can see now at present, because of all these pollutions, because of this global warming, we can feel this hot sunlight. Am I right? So this was happened earlier, started from the 12,000 years ago. Before that, the climate, everything was very suitable for the people who are living in that. But after 12,000 years ago, what happened? We can see the drastic change in the climate. There was a little change. The climate has turned into the warm. When it turned into the warm, we cannot see that all the plants can grow. For example, if I get a cherry or an apple or a bay tree from the the cold areas, and if I just plant over in our state or in our area where we are living, will it grow better? No, there is no chance to it, because it needs the climate which is suitable for that plant, as the climate should be very cool. We cannot keep such kind of cool, we cannot put any sort of air conditioners, because that is of a artificial, that is not natural. What we are having, that is an artificial. This artificial cannot give life to the plant. It is giving life to us where we can feel, where we can have a cool sense. But that is also one of the chemical one what we are taking, the breathe, inhale every day, right? So such kind of things we cannot do it. When the drastic changes, when the changes that occurs in the climate, when it turned into the warm, we can see the plants whatever the plants which used to grow in that particular area, most of the grasslands have started growing in that particular area. Along with that grasslands, they also observe few grain plants, the few grain crops in that particular area. When these grasslands have grown, the cattle, like animals of the cattle, like the sheep, goat, a cow or a buffalo, they used to eat the grass that which is available on the ground, right? When they used to eat this, when they see the reproduce of the sheep, the goat as the cow, when the babies are taking the milk from the mother, they just come to know that this is one of the liquid that where they are getting in the form of a milk. Then they started using it. Then they started rearing these animals. When they started raising these animals, they just controlled the wild animals. That the wild animals, the food of the wild animals is the cattle what they are rearing, right? So to protect these cattle animals, first what they have to do, they have to make the far away of the wild animals, and they have to give the security for this these animals. So these kind of animals what they are rearing, and they started making them to eat grass, okay, by the controlling of that particular area. And not only that, they observe some the grains what they ate and they have thrown, that particular seed started growing there. Okay, they observe that, they just want to know what it reproduce again. So to see that, they have taken the control of that particular crop, they have taken the control of these animals. Okay, then what happened finally? They started growing and rearing animals, growing the crops as well as rearing the animals. So this kind of life or this kind of path, we call it as a domestication. Okay, that is a domestication. So in that way, they started growing the crops. But whereas here, when they started growing the crops, why they have settled in that particular area? This is what the question you have. You said that, madam, you told that before they used to move from one area to another area, no? When they started growing the crops, if they move out of that particular area, what happened to that field? What happened to that animals? You have this doubt, right? So I have an answer for this. So obviously, to take care of those animals, to take care of that particular crops, they need to water the plants, they need to water the crops, right? And also they need to give the security for that particular area. Am I right? That they have to give the control of, they have to take care of the animals to, scare away of the wild animals, all these things, they have to do this work, right? What they did, to give the safeguard for these particular things, they settled themselves in that particular area. Okay, as to water the plants, as to take care of the, the animals, okay, as to take care of this particular crops, they settled there, and they have driven birds. If you just even now also you can see in few fields, the monkeys or some bears will get into that, and it will spoil the field. Right? What we do for that? We will just protect our field with the fencing and all these things. But we don't have such kind of, the technology in those days. So that's the reason these people used to safeguard their field by driving out of the birds and the animals which they did not allow them to enter into the field. And in this way, they started growing the crops. Okay. And after this, how they started growing the crops and tend to the animals. So in this way, the domestication was started by these people. Okay. So this is what the hunters and gatherers in our time started, growing of crops, and they started domestication of the animals. Okay. With this domestication of animals, we can see the drastic changes, as we can give the meat, as it produces the meat, as it produces the milk, and not only that, there is a continuous process. The reproduction can be taking place through the form of this domestication. So now what happened? Before, they used to go move from one place to another place in search of food. When the food is available over here, is it that these people will move from one place to another place? No, because everything is available for them in this particular area. And not only that, the people who used to live in this grasslands, they started making of edible grains. Okay, they started making of the edible grains, and not only that, when they started growing of different crops, the different group of people are living in the different areas. So all the different people are living in the different areas, they started growing of the different crops. When these people meet together, for example, the west group of people meet the east group of people, they both discuss together, and they'll have the work that what are the crops that they are growing, how it is growing, and everything. They started growing of paddy, they started growing of wheat, everything. Okay, what the things that which are available to them, they started growing. So through meeting these together, they'll just share, exchange their ideas from one to another. In this way also, they started producing of more crops, and also they started producing of a domestication. And not only that, how this domestication and how this growing of plants have been done. For example, if you see in your field, there are the plants, like for example, if you have started cropping of the paddy, you can see some other grass also which grows in the middle. So what you do? immediately you will take out the grass which is waste in that particular field. Am I right? In the same way, they sorted out the good one and the bad one, the wild one and the the domesticated one in such a way. Okay, for example, why we told that the sheep, goat and the cows comes under the domestic animals, and why the tiger, the lion, all this comes under the wild animals, because they have sorted out, they have segregated into these categories where which crop is good and which is good, which is not. So in that way, they sorted out the plants, they sorted out the crops, and even they sorted out the animals as domesticated animals. As to secure these domesticated animals, they have driven away these wild animals, right? So these wild animals have a lot of threat, we have lot of threat from these wild animals. So they started making these wild animals, making them to send off from that particular area. So in that way, they have segregated the plants, the crops as well as the animals. Okay, and now let us discuss how these people have settled. Okay, as we discussed just now, when they started growing the crops, as they need to take care of the crops and as they need to take care of the animals, they started settle their life. But they settle their life in that particular area, but without any houses, without any equipments that what we use in our house. For example, to cook we need some vessels. Am I right? But in those days, what they used to do, they used to have the fire. On that they used to drop the the meat and whatever they want to eat, but they don't have certain vessels or certain stoves to make it. But later on, when they started making of it, when they started doing all this work, they started settle themselves and they started finding some the soil. Okay, soil, that with the help of that soil they started making some pots to store the food. First thing is, okay, to store the food and to cook the food, they started making of pots with the help of the soil which they found, that is of clay, what we say. Okay, not the clay what you are playing, Nana, that is the soil which is available. Okay, that is also make it sure. So that in such a way they started making of pots. Okay, and not only that, they also made their houses. The pit houses were there, they used to make it earlier, but now as they have turned their life into the settled life, what they did, they started building, they started making their house in the form of, with the help of a wood, with the help of a dry leaves, or with the help of a mud. Okay, and in this way they started making their houses. Okay, and when they started making of their houses, they settled in that particular area itself, and especially these houses are made to store their grains. The granaries, right? The granaries. The granaries are the area, it's like a warehouse where we store the grains, as it should not get spoiled because of sunlight, it should not get spoiled because of the moisture from the climate, and also from the rain. So what we do, we just cover all the sides and we'll store the grain. In the same way, they also build these granaries for the purpose of storing their grains. Okay, and stoves for the purpose of cooking the food. So in such a way, they started settle their life and they started making of these things. And after that, what happened? Whatever the tools, like stone tools, they started using with a small one. No, then later on, okay, they started these stone tools which are habituated for them in the cultivation of crops. Okay, in the domestic, in the the rearing of the animals. So with the help of that small one, they made this particular stone tools. Okay, and this stone tools, it is of one of the new kind, that is Neolithic. We have learned one is of a big rock or a big stone. With the help of that, first they made it, and the second one is of little small compared to the first, that is of microliths, and the third one, that is of neoliths, that is a new kind of stone tool which were made to clear the forest, as in the form of the axe or the sickle. Okay, so this Neolithic made them to turn their life, and they started making of clearing the forest. And not only that, they also made with the help of wood as a ploughing. Okay, the plowshare we know, right? So that also made the changes which were used by the these people, gatherers, okay, the farmers, early farmers. So they use this plowshare which made with the help of a wood, that also comes under this, and they started using it for the purpose of their cultivation. So in this way, how they started their life, beginning with the gathering of the food, and then later how they started growing the food. So these are the drastic changes. These are the changes what we discussed over here. It is not of only 1 year or the 2 years of the experience. It's of thousands years of the experience. It's of thousands years of the past what we have studied right now in this chapter, which is not of which is not of the particular 1 year or the 2 years. Okay, so we can see how the hunters and gatherers made more effective to make their life from difficult to the easier, right? For example, if we feel it's very difficult to do that work, what we do generally, we'll say that it is very difficult to do this work. I don't want to do this homework, madam, as you have given a big assignment to me. I cannot complete. I couldn't complete within 1 day, right? You'll be directly saying it. But these people, what they did, you can have a live example over here. Their life, how it started and how they made it, and how they have given a beautiful life to us, where we are able to the cultivate crops now, where that tradition was being developed by the hunters and gatherers. And not only that particular tradition, they have given the importance for the nature. But what we are doing, Nana? So even now we are not using the natural resources what we are getting directly. We are making it the natural resources as into the form of machinery, and we are using it, right? So that happens because of the technology. As I told you the first example, before we used to use a hand fan, right? Later it became as one of the table fan. Later it went on with the ceiling. Then later it went on with the cooler, and now it existing with the air condition. And air condition was fixed at one place, but now you can see the central which is covered with all the sides. So this all the changes that you can observe, that you can see with the changes in the technology. As we can also say that this is also one kind of technology which is naturally used by the hunters and gatherers in that particular period, and how they become the the earliest people and their lifestyle, everything that we have studied in this chapter. Okay, so I'll give you the complete review of this chapter today. Now the first thing what we did, Nana, we have studied about the hunters and gatherers, how they collected the food, okay, by hunting the animals, right, by collecting the fruits from the plants, and by collecting the the tubers from the ground levels, right, and by collecting the the grains, edible grains from the forest. Okay, as we can say that the forest is a mother for them to feed the food for the hunters and gatherers. Am I right? And not only that, we also studied how the work which makes them very easily, which makes them very easily to get the food. Okay, so they have used the stone tools. Okay, so these stone tools help them to work on more and more effectively. And not only that, they have studied, they have researched each and every particular area what can be available in that. For example, if you want to get something, we cannot say that it is very easy to get it, right? First we have to know that how difficult it is to get that particular one. Then only we can able to get it. The same formula has been used by the hunters and gatherers, right? They started making a research of that particular forest, and they started cultivating, making of that particular crops or particular animals or everything else in that particular area. And these stone tools, first they started with a big stone, and then they went on with the microliths, and at the last you have seen the neoliths that they used for the purpose of their cultivation, right? And the great thing that what the hunters and gatherers has given a gift to us, that is of discovery of fire. You know, without a light, without fire, we cannot do anything now, right? This is what a great thing that they have given a good, beautiful gift to us. Really, we have to be very thankful to them. So this is what that hunters and gatherers did. And next thing is that they started gathering and growing the crops. How they started growing the crops, and how the lifestyle of them as a nomadic life, like how they moved from one place to another place. Okay, why they have moved from one place to another place? Because in search of food. As it is a summer season, we cannot get a food in that particular area. So what they have to do? They have to move to the other area where they can get the food. This is also one lesson they have taught to us. If nothing is available in that particular area, we should not feel anything. We should go for the next step, and we should search for the next alternative. That is what they taught to us, right? And next, how they started growing of the crops, and still who are the people who are living even in our state now, right now, and what is the tradition that they are following, and how we just come to know the lifestyle of such people, okay, and how they have used how they shared their lives with the others, okay. So all these life with others, okay, and how they used to settle themselves in that particular area. All these things we have learned in this, and you know, the number of people have involved in it. Whatever the food that they are getting, they used to share among everyone, and they used to have it, okay. And how they started the domestication, you know, rearing of animals, okay. So these are all the things that we have covered in this chapter, okay. Thank you.